HLN legal analyst Joey Jackson and psychotherapist Dr. Robi Ludwig, both with us now. Thank you both so much for being here. We appreciate it. Joey, I want to get to the he says, she says here first, just so we all are on the same page. She says in the book, in the book that was just written, that's coming out on Tuesday, in Catch and Kill, it's called, this: it was non-consensual in the sense that I was too drunk to consent. It was non-consensual in that I said multiple times that I didn't want to have anal sex. He says Brooke did not do or say anything to object. She certainly did not cry. She was a fully enthusiastic and willing partner. At no time did she behave in a way that made it appear she was incapable of consent. She seemed to know exactly what she wanted to do. First of all, before you compare and contrast both of those explanations, when he writes, she seemed to know, it sounds to me like that could be picked apart.
You know, it could be. Good to be with you, Christy, and my friend Dr. Robi as well. Look, here's the point. The point is that there's always going to be two narratives. Those narratives are going to be competing. For her part, it was non-consensual. He took advantage of her. Let's make no mistake about it. Whether someone doesn't consent because they say no, or whether someone doesn't consent because they have too much alcohol and you take advantage of them, a crime is a crime is a crime, if true. Right? His position is that, well, wait a second. You mean you didn't consent? It appeared you were willing at that point, right? Picked apart as it may. But then he's going to go on, and he's saying that we engaged in an affair thereafter that was multi-month affair, text messages exchanged back and forth, seeing you at various functions and events and everything else. The day of, going back to the incident at issue in Sochi, Russia, he's saying that they embraced at the door, and there was nothing that would indicate to him that there was any criminality. So there's always going to be that narrative in a case like this. We are in a new state of the world, right? The fact is we are in Me Too, we are in Time's Up, and in that regard, right, in any scenario, you know, however someone says no, no means no, and you can't do anything. But I think any investigation is going to turn not only on a he say, she say, Christy, very briefly, but it's also going to turn on what was the nature of the text exchanges between the two, the nature of the communications, who do they know, what parties know of their relationship, was there any recent outcry, did she complain, what did she say about him, what did he say? So there's a lot more evidence and information that would need to be gleaned to determine, is she credible, is he credible, what happened?
Robbie, what might be confusing to a lot of people who read this is the fact that they did then have, and she admits to, a consensual relationship thereafter. Yes. This event. Help us understand, though, because now she says that this has derailed her life, that she's abusing alcohol, that she's withdrawing from work. Help us understand what a situation like this does to somebody and why they might go back into a scenario with that person. Yeah, so just to step back a little bit, most rapes that happen are between people who know each other. It's not usually a stranger rape situation. So there are a couple scenarios. One, that in retrospect, after the relationship kind of played out, she defined this incident in the hotel room as being rape. So in looking back historically, she felt that she wasn't considered or objectified, or it was painful. And maybe she wanted to have a nice relationship with Matt. Certainly there were many women that were interested in him. There's also the workplace component where there was a definite imbalance of power. So she could have felt vulnerable, kept the relationship going for several reasons. One, she liked him and hoped that it would turn into something significant. And two, he had a lot of power and could have had power over her work life, which also complicated the scenario. So, Joey, when we look at this in the totality that we know it to be now, how problematic is it from a legal standpoint that this relationship continued?
You know, certainly in any court of law, if it ever got there, there are going to be a number of questions by jurors, right? The question, obviously, which is, did you report it? What did you say? Who did you say it to? Directly after the incident, was there any other reporting that you did to a friend, to someone who you were talking to that day, to family back at home? All those things will be vetted out. What was the nature of the communication? Did he apologize over a text and say, look, I didn't mean to take advantage of you? Or were you texting him saying, I had a lovely evening? All of those things, right? I'm not suggesting that occurred or exists. I'm just saying to you that's going to be the nature of any evidence. Right now, it's not in a court of law. Could it get there? Well, yes, in the event that she pressed forward. But those are all the things. One last thing, and that's important what Dr. Robi's speaking to, which is the coercive element, right? There are some times that perhaps relationships continue because of that imbalance of power, right, in the workplace. He's saying, hey, I didn't manage or control your work. You didn't work for me. But that could have led her to believe, but this guy is very well connected. And as a result of his connections, I better go along to get along. Again, not suggesting that happened either. What I'm saying is that those are all things that need to be vetted, investigated, and determined.
There are arguments on both sides of it at the end of the day. Joey Jackson, Robi Ludwig, we appreciate you both being here. Thank you.